Welcome back to another episode of the Other Epic Story Reading. Today we're continuing with Chapter 5. This is Part 2. No, said Jennifer, looking up at Wordsworth with watery eyes. He is not with us tonight, and I don't believe that he will show up unannounced anytime soon either. My husband and Mr. Gonright had not had the most pleasant of relationships in the past, but I did not believe I had married a murderer. An accusation is a grave matter, Jen, said Wordsworth. There is no second chance for Aaron if we were to catch him. He will be punished with the greatest discrimination. You understand this. If you say anything against him, you cannot reverse. Nonsense, cried a voice from the crowd. Hang that bloody oaf! I feel very little for Aaron now, said Jennifer, wiping her eyes lightly with her fingers. I felt very little for him for a long time. What he has done is unforgivable. He has shamed all of us in such a heinous way that I only wish to see forgiveness in me for loving him at all. I shall admit my crime in front of you all tonight, so you may understand my husband's crime. She stood up for emphasis, or perhaps she was ready to burst. Aaron Delane did not steal a pistol to murder an innocent man. He stole the pistol to murder my lover. Henry and I have been a couple in secrecy for months now, and I offer that information to you in hope that I may be forgiven and be seen as an honest woman begging for a new start. Your honesty would not be forgotten, said Wordsworth, attempting a comforting touch with his rough hands to her soft shoulder. It is a noble act, and such, I hope, would reward us in capturing him and sentencing him to a proper punishment. I ask you now, as you seem to understand our fugitive the best, where can your husband be? Aaron is much smarter than people give him credit for, said Jennifer. He is not stupid and never acts on impulse. He had thought long and hard about his crime as well as his escape. He would have taken the road less traveled. He would head in the direction that none of us would consider. But I am very doubtful that we will. Sounds like a load of crap, a familiar voice hollered. I'm suspicious of you, hussy. Don't try and protect your husband by saying that we should simply turn over and forget about it. Calm down, Wordsworth said. We are not going to surrender the search in any form, but we also have to take our priorities into consideration. What is more important to us now? Hunting the murderer or gathering our stock for the winter? These are the things Jen is making us aware of. She is not saying give up, but be wise about our anger and not let it control us in the heat of the moment. Nonsense, came the reply. I see her hidden agenda, even if nobody else does. I bet that she was involved. I say we search her for the gun. Perhaps there was another reason why her husband is not present. Perhaps she is the murderer. Perhaps she murdered him too. Search me all you want, said Jennifer, with all the fight in her body. You may hang me if you find the gun. If I were to live in speculation and scorn for the rest of my life, I'd rather die. I've lost both my love and the man I've built a life with tonight. I've borne no children and have no land, title, or skills to start a business. If it is death to me you want, then there will be no death of you, said Wordsworth, expressing his dominance again. We will speak no more tonight about Jen's guilt. Though I am certain some of you would believe her to be guilty, I, along with the majority, would agree that the real criminal is her husband. We also agree that we will take arms and find him, no matter how elusive he may be. Justice and order will be served and peace will be restored in North Bourbon, that I promise you. The citizens of North Bourbon exchanged a long, skeptical look. Then the tension was broken by a loud moo from the gallery of cows. They could not understand why the humans had gathered in their den that night in an uproar. If they did, they could not understand why their precarious sleep was being disturbed over a death when they were slaughtered on a regular basis. Cows and the people of North Bourbon may never understand each other. Elias awoke. He listened briefly as Leslie explained the details of the murder and how it was his father's gun that was the weapon. He had his head in his palms as she spoke, and when he finally looked up, Leslie was most surprised to hear what he had to say. "I guess you no longer want to be with me," he said, as though the disenchantment was his greatest downfall. "There is of course no reason for you to stay. I can take care of myself from here on if you wish to head home." "You are a very arrogant boy, Frank," said Leslie, stepping away from him. "You think I stayed here assisting you because I didn't get any permission to leave? I stayed because I cared about you enough. Instead of offering thanks to me, you made the situation about yourself. People will treat you pitifully and weak if you act pathetic." Elias sat up from the table and marched away into his room, slamming the door behind him. Leslie stood frozen in the kitchen, debating what she wanted to do next. She looked around the empty room and wanted to find a reason to stay. If only she was the type of person to leave well enough alone. But she wasn't. She wanted to solve the puzzle that was Frank Elias. She wanted to get into his head as much as he wanted to get onto her body. It was a mutual understanding that did not need communicating, but was understood. Elias began by knocking all his belongings that sat upon his cabinet onto the floor. Some of the objects shattered beyond repair and others just slid out of sight. Those that were once considered cherished tokens of his childhood were now so insignificant that he felt repulsed to even seek them out. His destruction did not conclude there. Next, he took his fist and matched it against the wall. A relieving pain made him shiver. It was nonetheless a soothing medication. Then, he felt his body fall beneath him, not in fatigue, but in an overdose of fury. He lay on his bed, staring at the shadows of a ceiling. There, amongst the wooden panels that held the house together, was a thought about his father. What would his dad have done in that particular moment? Would he stomp off to his room? Would he throw a tantrum? Would he act aggressive and childish? No. That was the answer and the truth. Another truth was that his father would not have his gun stolen from under his nose. His father would not have sat idly by enjoying dinner without knowing that such a precious tool was amiss. His father would not have that problem to deal with in the first place. Elias rolled onto his side and knew that the next move would be critical. The next decision he would make will forever decide what he would be to the people of North Bourbon. Would he be the shame of the town, the butt of the jokes, and the pitiful boy who tarnished his family's name? Would he be an example mothers use to discipline their children? No, he refused to be that. There was an alternative to all those things, but it required some reckless abandon and courage. That was two things that he was lacking as he lay in the fetal position. A knock rapped on the door. Then he heard Leslie's voice. "Frank?" she called from the other side. "May I come in?" Elias wished he could shoo her away and be confined to his guilt. "Yes," he said, without turning over to face the door. "You may enter." The door opened and Leslie entered the room cautiously. She approached the bed where he lay and sat down at the foot. A long silence passed between them before Elias spoke in an unapologetic tone. "I'll find the man who did it," he said. Still in his curled up position, "I'll find him, and I'll punish him for his crime."